or you can make a note to us online. We have questions online and in person, and I have a few announcements. There's some very exciting things coming up at ICAT. On the 23rd, there will be a free webinar, Women Who Help Drive the Magic School Bus. There's going to be a new music and technology festival on the 24th and 25th. And finally, ICAT Day is May 4th. I'm going to introduce our lovely speakers today. We have Katie Brooks and Fat Wen from the Science Museum of Western Virginia. They are going to talk to us about the Planetarium.
Hi, so I'm Katie Brooks. I'm the director of the
My name is Fat. I'm the creative director at the
So we're here from the Science Museum of Western Virginia in downtown Roanoke. And behind us, we have one of the best shots we've ever had of the that was actually taken by the people who installed our software. So as you can see, it's a big dome, kind of standard planetarium, and we are in the control room in that picture. So the eye is really unique from the rest of the museum in that it is the intersection of art and science, is what we like to say, because it's not just that it's useful to combine art and science, but that it's really essential. So everything that we do kind of combines all of that. And so our philosophies and kind of our guiding principles center around different ways of thinking and seeing. So incorporating multidisciplinary and multimodal processes and values. And so kind of for our audience, what that means is that learning becomes incidental. That's kind of our goal. Really anything that we do in there, the goal is for people to really be immersed and captivated first and foremost. And if they're enjoying themselves, if they're really being brought to kind of meditate on something, the learning is second nature. So it's kind of an extension of that informal learning environment that the museum strives to be. The museum was created over 50 years ago by a small group of science teachers that really wanted to move beyond the classroom space. And so we are, I don't know, I guess pushing that a little bit further in the eye, and that's a really cool experience to get to have. We create immersive learning experiences that move way beyond the textbook. And so, yeah, when we say the eye, we're talking about a few things at once. We're not just talking about the dome. We're also talking about the creative studio, which is a two-person team. It's just us. Everything that happens in there is driven by us. And then also the projectors that make it all happen, the theater itself. So it's a sort of multifaceted space. And the dome's scale is something that we like to talk about. Obviously, it's really large, but the scale of it allows for a lot of different things at once. If we have something really, really massive, all of a sudden we can scale it to something manageably sized, like outer space. So you can show the solar system, but you can show it at a scale where you're seeing just how vast space is around it. But also you could take something like a microbe, and it's massive. So scale is something that I think that the space uniquely offers. And it's something that we always kind of keep in consideration as we're building all sorts of content. I think you can move on. It's also multi-purpose. So we do a lot of different things in there. It is obviously a planetarium, so we have our public shows. We have star shows that we run twice a day, every day, 3 times on the weekends. And then we make our own content for special events, and we're going to get into more of that later. But for any content that we're making, we have a sort of same process that we follow every time. We like to say from vision to exhibition, because it always starts with an idea, and then we actually have to follow through and see that through. We're a small nonprofit, so actually executing is super important, and being able to kind of fund our operations is important. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, just kind of going on like that kind of pressure of having an exhibition, because to kind of run the eye, we do have to have at least 1 or 2 events that we have to develop on top of clients. and on top of the education department. So lots of different ways that, lots of different purpose, but all share the same vision of how we create it.
We do a lot of different things at once. We have the star shows. We have shows that we make specifically for schools that will actually solicit certain SOLs they want to cover, and so we'll make specified content to serve that SOL. And then we do facility rentals. So we have some corporate clients that'll come in and want us to help, with a keynote speech or something like that. And so we're building content that kind of follows through with a lot of different things. But no matter what we're doing, whether it's an SOL star show or whether it is somebody's keynote speech or whether it's a fun after-hours event that we're doing for fun, we always follow this same sort of arc. And so, but we always like to talk about where this process started, which is with a moth. So when the eye was opening, we talked a lot about what we wanted it to be, what we could envision doing in there, and wanting to move beyond, the standard planetarium fare. So wanting to break into more immersive experiences, whether that's a sit-down show or whether that's something that actually might be more interactive one day, all sorts of different things. But we knew we wanted to incorporate art, which is something that we don't always get to do with the rest of the museum. In a way, exhibits are art too, but this was a unique opportunity to do a lot more and to kind of push further. And so we had a demo that was taking place at the very start of the eye being open. And in fact, I wasn't even working in the eye at the time. Fat was just newly brought on as creative director. I was director of operations, so more outside of the eye. But we had this demo coming up with an arts group, and so it was really important to us that we be able to incorporate not just, we can show a little bit of star show, we can show a little bit of some of the technical capabilities, but also let's show something that we made in-house, so we can show what kind of thinking we're able to do in here, and how the arts does have a home in here too. And so Fat and I got together, and we had a really organic conversation, and I have more of an arts background than a science background, so I offered up a poem that I had. We were talking about all sorts of genres and everything, so we knew we wanted to do a video essay or a video poem. We knew we wanted something that was a little bit more literary. And I had this poem about a moth, and it's the spongy moth, which used to be called the gypsy moth. If anyone doesn't know, they're really invasive. And so we decided to run with that, and we had less than a week to do it. So it was super quick turnaround, and it was a combination of everyone's different skills. So we used the poem, we recorded, we picked the visuals, we made a visual storyboard, we put the video together, and then we ran the demo. And the day of, our executive director got really, really anxious about any possible imperfections, and so less than halfway through, she turned it off. But everyone in the room sort of revolted for a little minute, and they weren't done watching that piece. And so it taught us a lot about what we could do in there, because people were really captivated. In less than 3 minutes, America's most hated moth became something people wanted to spend the rest of their day thinking about. And it just taught us so much about what a meditative environment that is, and how much more we could be pushing people to think and feel and sort of spend time in a place. And I think you wanted to say a few things about that experience.
Yeah, when I was brought on, I also came from an arts background. This is definitely where I came from. So when I approached Katie about what we're going to be showcasing that represents the eye, it was very refreshing to hear for the first time it wasn't science. Not that I wasn't against it. It was just like, let's do a poem or let's do arts. And my eyes kind of lit up, and I was like, yeah, let's take a gamble. Let's do this. This is a science museum, but maybe we can show a little bit of arts within it. So that's kind of where it all started, and that kind of gave me the more confidence to kind of combine the arts and the science together to showcase in an immersive way to not only entertain and inspire, but also educate as well. So this was a very good moment for us to start working on our future shows as well.
And so we like to talk about that when we talk about our process, because we haven't changed our process very much since, although, now we try to work on better time scales. We're not as crunched, but it taught us a lot about how we divide our time, what we're led by. And so we always start with that first idea, that first vision, a moth, a SOL concept, whatever it is that's guiding us. We start there. And he had the arc up before, but it takes a lot of collaboration and conversation before we ever are, working on the video editing, before anything is ever projected on the dome. We have a lot of talk, but we also have to be really intentional with our time, being a nonprofit. So it's a really unique experience. But we always go back to the moth. It was supposed to be this really tiny thing that didn't matter at all and everyone forgot about. But because that was really the first time Fat and I worked together on something, and we realized what everything could be, and what kind of approach, creative approach, but also technical approach, and how we always kind of have a story behind everything. And that's one of the biggest things I think people don't realize, especially clients coming in. Those facility rentals, they might come in kind of knowing what they want, but we always have a narrative arc. And so there's a lot of storytelling that happens. No matter what we're working on, we kind of have to create a journey around it. And this is funny, but we had a laser light show. It was a psychedelic laser light show. And even for that, we created a narrative arc that didn't make its way into the show, but it guided what we did in there. And so the flow of the playlist, the flow of the visuals, everything was guided by that narrative arc. So that is really our core approach, is our idea, our arc, getting to work on production, and then actually exhibiting. You wanna?
Katie, to speak a little bit about our client work, something that this is very new to them, because when they come in, of course, they kind of tell us a little bit about what they wanted to showcase, their narrative and their vision. But we really have pushed for a long period of time where we get to know them, get to hear the vision, and kind of elaborate on it. And that's the process that I think a lot of people that comes in tends to remember from working with us. So it's a very important process for us to kind of walk through the idea and the narrative before we even go to the visuals.
And getting into a little bit more of what we actually create. So we have in-house star shows that we've made ourselves. We have special events that we come up with ourselves. We have community partnerships and collaborations with other organizations in Roanoke and outside of Roanoke. And then we have those facility rentals. And I think that's in the forefront of our minds because we've been doing a lot of that lately. But probably our favorite, our kind of home base is those special events. Besides our public programming that we do daily, we've had a lot of fun and had a lot of great experiences with the community by doing those special events. We created a few series of our own, which started off with, I guess the first one would have been Stars Over Star City, and that was a speaker series. But we created the Sight and Sound series after the museum was closed for a little period of time for some renovations, and we had some time to work. And we created the Sight and Sound series, which is always They're these immersive experiences that are all about sensory perception, and whether that is just by having you experience something unique in a sensory way, such as we did with the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. We put a playlist to a silent film, and so you're sitting there experiencing sound that has not been paired with that film before. We've done found footage. We've done full-scale events that include activities and all kinds of things that are about sensory perception. So we did one on synesthesia, and that was so much fun and still one of our favorites. Actually, some people here, I think, saw that one. And then most recently, we did Love Hurts, which was a Valentine's Day, Friday the 13th event that was all about how our sensory perception informs how we experience love and what love is on a physical scale. And then we do laser light shows. We do all kinds of things. But probably one of the most fulfilling, you can move on to the next one, is that, would you pause it? I was just,
The measure of an
or we could show moth. Yeah, so collaboration. So our community partnerships are really important to us. That is probably one of the most fulfilling because it's a really connective experience, and it allows us to kind of not just show a story that we want to show, but also somebody else's story. And so following that narrative arc, following that vision, we were able to take somebody else's passion project or the thing that is the core of what they do. So one of our favorites is Roanoke Baroque Orchestra. We've had a couple of events in there where we showcase visuals behind a live performance, and we're able to work with that director to figure out what visuals are going to have the most resonance, the most impact with what they're playing. So we most recently just did Handel in Italy, and so all of the visuals behind while they were playing were different places in Italy that were strategic where that composer actually lived and worked at the time. And so it kind of just brings another layer to their performance, and it lets us highlight them in our space. And we've gotten to do that a number of times with a lot of different people, and it's always a great experience to be able to kind of show the heights of different fields all together in one space. So we like to share that space and not just our own work. And I think we were going to show a little bit of moth.
The measure of an impact crater is calculated by its heights and depths, by shadow length, angle of light, and a geometry of triangles. One could not measure the depth of a longing, but by the light of observation. Only by the hands of the artist could such tender precision be rendered as to take a razor's edge to the brown silk cocoon's soft membrane, in which was a living chrysalis nearly ready to transform. The tomb uncovered, the disembodied womb dissected, and it must have been with such devotion that Truvolo enclosed the silkworm with mica sliver and mastic resin so as to make it solid and airtight. The logic of etymology.
So we're a little bit short on time, so we don't want to play the whole thing. But that was just one little piece. And again, you kind of just got the
same
experience
one
that the other people had of just having to cut it really quickly. And especially in the dome, no matter what it is, you're kind of just drawn in, and you don't really want to be pulled out. But I think we're going to play a little bit of Love Hurts also, which is our most recent project.
The same ones that have been keeping us alive since the time of our earliest ancestors. For most of human history, sensory perception served survival purposes above all other ambitions. Detecting threats, finding food, reading the environment for danger. But our brains and bodies have evolved. Our senses now help us build systems of value, of morality, of belief. They inform our communities, our identities.
One thing you might have noticed, if you saw that circle, that's part of how we build our content too. So while we're video editing, we actually have a circle template that we lay over our videos to be able to tell where the dome is going to cut off. So all of our videos are done in square format, and then we actually are able to kind of show ourselves what our framework actually is, because it is such a unique space to be programming for. And I think lastly, we just kind of wanted to touch on the future of the eye, because some of you might know that the museum is moving, and so you probably are curious what that means for our space. A lot of people have been in Roanoke, and it is, our department is probably the least mobile, on an obvious level, but what we've kind of been having a lot of conversations about what is the eye. So we started off by saying it's this theater, it's this dome, it's this creative studio, But it's also much more than just the surface it's projected on. The eye isn't just that surface. It's that studio. It's that creative practice. It's those conversations and those connections. And so no matter where we go, we're not worried about our ability to replicate this process again. It just might look a little bit different. That's probably the best way I can word that. We continue to make immersive experiences, and we're going to continue to. We're not going to stop that. But what that actually looks like might be a little bit different, and we're kind of excited about the challenges, because one thing that we've experienced this entire time is the way that challenges have shaped what we do in a positive way. When it comes to art and when it comes to science, for both of those things, we learn through failure. And we learn through what a form, we're forced into. And so being forced into the dome shape has shaped a lot of what we've done in a way that it wouldn't have if we were formatting for, a flat square. But formatting for a flat square might give us different things than we experienced with the dome. So we're just actually excited to evolve and to see what happens next and what we're building for. Does anyone have any questions for us? Fat, do you want to say anything else?
Yeah, maybe we'll move from a dome to maybe some other shape, like a cylinder or something. So we'll see. But yeah, we'll just kind of turn this back to the audience. If there's any questions, discussions, we'll love to hear them.
Apparently, the Da Vinci is a tool you use. I'm unclear as to what precisely the function of the Da Vinci thing is.
Yeah, Da Vinci is just a video editing software that we use. At the time, it was just readily available for all of us to use, and it's similar to After Effects, but it's free to use at first, and that's why we kind of went on to it first. So it's a great program. That's what we use for all of our editing. Yeah, if you're used to After Effects, then it's just like that.
So I usually ask a process question, but you folks did a really good job of covering the process. So I'll ask a pre-process question, and Fat, not to put you on the spot, but since you're an alum, can you say a little bit about how your time with ICAT and the spaces that we have here shaped what you're doing? And before you answer that, Katie, can you say a little bit about, not to put you on the spot either, but after Fat answers, can you say a little bit about how that's translated to working with you in this space? So.
Yeah, I mean, ICAT was where I started as well. That was my first kind of introduction to the intersection of science and creativity and all these together. The system that we were using with the dome is from Illuminati, and that's the same system with the cyclorama. And I remember when I was doing my thesis, I think the cyclorama was just being installed. So I was this very newly graduate students that's just kind of figuring out the system, and that was also a very unique shape. It's circular, but in a cylindrical way. So aspect ratio was insane. So I was learning how to use that. I think that really just kind of made me more open to all these different types of aspect ratios or surfaces that I'll be working on. So yeah, and the projects were always very different too. I remember ICAT used to come by, I'll be working project that involves robots to plants to bats to flying snakes. They're all over the place, and that kind of made me more robust and fluid when it comes to the science, because there could be times when we were making a video for animal demos, and then we went to space, and then we went to the micros world, and then we have all these different clients with different needs, and from poems to just a stand-up to business. So that, I think, my time here, especially with ICAT, has really, really made me, I guess, I don't know how it's best to say, like a rounded creative that is ready to tackle on any surfaces or ideas or anything like that. Yeah.
And so in terms of what it's like to work with FAT coming from the ICAT experience, I first have to say that FAT has taught me a lot of what I know. I have the thinking that I needed. I'm a process-oriented person. We have great conversations, and I think that I started with vision too, but I did not have a lot of those technical skills. FAT taught me Da Vinci. He's taught me a lot, and so I've benefited from ICAT and from Virginia Tech because I got a little bit of his education by way of him. And so, yeah, he's brought in connections. There's already a really nice relationship between Virginia Tech and the museum. But FAT is probably our most direct link besides, Phyllis and some of our other friends. But, yeah.
What kinds of content have you felt or have you found to be the most successful or unsuccessful in all the stuff that you've developed or that has come through in the eye?
Probably our riskiest on both sides is the more experimental stuff. So we'll just kind of be really into something like synesthesia. We were talking about, we wanted to have sensory experiences in there. And that was a complete risk. That was the first time we'd done something like that in there, bringing the public in for, they don't really know what to expect when you're telling them this is just an eye experience, and how can I convey to you that this is both science and art, and there's like no seam between the two. So I think that in general has been our biggest challenge, is sometimes communicating to the public what we're even offering, what that even is. And so trailers have helped in being able to kind of give some kind of keywords about what they're going to expect. But that's probably been our biggest challenge, is the more experimental work.
Yeah, I agree. Those are always like our biggest challenge, but the most rewarding. Like I remember we were talking about synesthesia, was bringing these folks in to experience a phenomenon that is very few people in the world experience, of synesthesia, and we're like, how can we even get people to visualize it, to see it, taste it, and also kind of learn from it? I think the learning part was something that we wanted, but it has to come through from the entertainment part. So that was a very fun part. For the things that didn't work, I feel like when works that are very static or very just in the middle of a screen, it doesn't use up the whole space. Those are the ones that we always just try to avoid. But sometimes folks just kind of brings in low res, and they want something simple, so we have to kind of go with it. But yeah, the more experimental, that's the most rewarding. And also with a live component, like someone acting, like orchestra, combined with our dome. That right there is that is a perfect match right there.
Let's do one more. We'll make it quick.
Thank you. I had a question about student involvement with the eye. My peers and I actually a while ago, we did a screening at the eye, and we still talk about it. It was super cool. And I'm about to graduate soon, but I'm interested in opportunities for the first years in the CTMFA or any program to get involved with submissions or screenings.
Yeah, that was our open studio night, and that's something that we want to keep doing no matter what space we're in. We had an open submission call for any works, we were trying to be multimedia about it, and that was an incredible evening, and we want to keep doing that. But we've always talked about having, when we have more resources to expand that studio, being able to actually bring students in, whether that looks like one project from start to finish, or whether that looks like internship work here and there piecemeal. We are really interested in kind of being able to be a space where students can access some of what we have too, and we love our involvement with that. We did the Ocean Eye event too, and that was a screening of student work. So we love having students in our space. Yeah.
know you're like leaving this year, but before you go, if there's anything you want to displace in the eye, like make sure to hit us up and we'll get you in there.
On that note, we are at time. Feel free to continue the conversation. Next week, we'll be here again for a play date. The title is Emerging Creatives. It looks really fun. Thank you, Fat and Katie.